is going to be a little bit different today. So you don't need anything at all, just your lovely brain and your lovely self, and all of your attention. I need your eyes on me, eyes glued to the screen, sitting up straight, and I need your camera on. Creflo, why is your camera off? You know I want to see your face. Sarah, why is your camera off? Ariana, why is your camera off? I want to see everyone's face. Danielle, I just saw your face and then it disappeared. We have to see the birthday girl. All right, so close reading is going to be a little bit different today. Usually we would jump right into a text, but some texts you need to have some background information. You need to know a little bit of history before you just jump right into them. So the name of our text is Manifest Destiny, I Do Believe. We'll get to that later. So first, okay, so before we read the text, it's important to know what time period the text took place in and the events surrounding the text. So if you have any questions, raise a Zoom hand if you need me to stop, if you need me to repeat anything, because it's going to be a lot of information kind of quick. And just know that you will learn about these events at some point in the next few years in history class. But this is just going to be like a short little, oh, someone already raised their hand. Jessica, raise your hand. Hold on, Jessica. Hold on. All right, let me go over here so I can. Yes, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Are you getting this from a book or from like passage? Because it looks like it's a it doesn't look like a real book from like the 80s.
So this is not our book. I'm gonna meet you real fast. So this is not the book. This is so this is the text right here, and this looks like what we usually read, things that we usually read. And so this is the actual text, but we have to have some historical knowledge and a little bit of background knowledge before we just jump right into this particular text. So this is what we will be eventually reading, but before that, we're gonna just talk about the history around the text. So, any more questions? Did that answer your question, Jessica? Okay, awesome. Okay, so the time period of the text, it takes place in the 1800s. And so the writer of the text, she regards herself as a pioneer. What is a pioneer? Does anyone know what a pioneer is? You can raise a hand or you can chat it to me. I see Edgar. What's a pioneer?
I think a pioneer is like where they do like a bunch of stuff, like they do like they're kind of like construction workers.
Okay.
That's what I all know about pioneers. They're kind of like construction workers.
Okay, construction workers. Let's have someone evaluate that answer. Emanuela, I see your hand.
A pioneer is a person who travels around the sea or a country or area.
Okay, I see. We're coming together. Thank you, Emanuela. Let's have Ashada. You can add on.
Adding on, I think a pioneer is a person who is among the first to like explore a new country or area.
I like that answer. I like all you guys' answer. Thank you for those. And I'm gonna end right there because I like something that you said that was very specific. So I should have said that. Oh, please mute yourself, guys. So a pioneer is someone who is new. They discovered something new that no one else saw. You know, they were the first ones there. So this lady in our text, she regards herself as a pioneer. We'll see if she actually is one or not, but that's how she feels about herself. I see someone. What did you read, Creflo? Oh, you read, wait, what did you read, Creflo? About what? Unmute yourself, please.
I learned that, wait, say what I learned. what I read about.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I read this book, I think it was them when they went on an adventure, and then I think they had to. I remember the names Lewis and Clark, and I remember the story, and they had to. They were going on. I think I remember they were going on adventures, and it was last year. But yeah,
I'm
they
glad.
went on an adventure.
Okay, so they were going on an adventure. Thank you. So that's a perfect segue. Creflo brought us right into this first slide. So he said that Lewis and Clark were going on an adventure. But before we get to Lewis and Clark, let's talk about 1803, Thomas Jefferson and the Louisiana Purchase. And before I do that, I just want to make sure that everyone's still with me with their eyes glued to the screen, looking just like Edgar, looking just like Jakari, and just like Nasiah Creflo. What is that face that you're making? Everyone's camera is on. That makes me so happy. Okay. So in 1803, Thomas Jefferson bought 827,000 square miles of land from France, which is about 15 states, right in the middle of modern day United States. So at that time, the United States was only colonized on the East Coast. And so we bought this huge piece of land from France. The interesting part about that, though, is that there were already people living on this land. Native Americans were already living on this land that France sold to America. And so that's just something interesting to keep in mind. So then we have Lewis and Clark. So Lewis and Clark, they went on an expedition between 1803 and 1806 to explore all this newly acquired land. They wanted to see like what they had never been there. They don't know what type of resources are on the land. And so they took, it was themselves and then 33 other people. And they went on this 3-year-long expedition, like Creflo said, an adventure to go and see what this piece of land was about and all the, and to meet Native people and just to explore. And they couldn't have done it. Her name's not up here, but they couldn't have done it without Sacagawea. She was a Native woman who helped them navigate the lands, and she served as a translator when they ran into other Native people. And then the War of 1812, I'm gonna give you like the most brief, unexplained version, so just, you know, just take it and then you can learn about it more later. So the War of 1812 was fought between Great Britain and the United States. At the time, the US was trying to expand, like they have been so far, and Britain still had some control over the US, and they were in a war with France, so they didn't like how the United States was making deals with France. And so they fought a war. Technically, Britain won, but nobody really won because everyone maintained their same boundaries that they had before the war. No land was won or lost. Any questions about anything? Raise a hand, or, all right, it looks like, I can't tell. So some people's hands are still up, and I don't know if it's a new hand or an old hand. So if you had your hand up, okay, I see Jessica has a question. Yes, Jessica. Oh, unmute yourself, sweetheart. Can you?
I don't have a question. I was for accident some.
Okay. Emanuela, do you have a question? No? Okay. Aishada, you have a question? Wait, I see Raymond. Was that a hand? All right, Raymond has a question.
So basically, France and the United States just fought for no reason.
So, no, well, that's a matter of opinion, but really, so it was the United States and Great Britain fighting, and they were fighting because the United States was making trades. They were trading like goods and land and money with France. And France didn't like that because Britain was in a war with France, and they didn't like that. So then we ended up fighting a war with Britain. But nobody
Oh,
won.
SpaghettiOs.
Oh,
You understand? Awesome.
okay.
Great. Okay, so please keep yourselves muted, guys. Okay, so now on to the next slide. Now, this is what our text, so the title of our text, remember, is Manifest Destiny, I do believe. So it's very important that we understand what Manifest Destiny is. So Manifest Destiny is an idea. It's the 19th century, which means the 1800s, doctrine or belief that the expansion of the United States throughout the American continents was both justified and inevitable. Does anyone know what the word inevitable means?
Yes.
Is that Edgar?
Yes.
What does it mean, Edgar?
Inevitable means like you can't die something. Well, you can't. Well, you could do something like forever. Say that, because it's not only for like not dying. You could do something forever, and it won't like you can't stop it.
Bingo, key. You can't stop it. So inevitable means that it's gonna happen. You can't stop it. Like, it is inevitable that the moon is gonna rise tonight and the sun is going down. We can't stop it. You can't stop it. I can't stop it. It's gonna happen. There's nothing we can do about it. So it was this belief that Europeans felt that they were justified, and
Can you guys hear me?
yes, but why are we hearing you?
Europeans felt like they won't die.
Wait, what'd you say? Someone said something.
So the Europeans believe that they won't die.
Well, maybe, but what they really believed was that they had the right to take whatever they wanted, go wherever they wanted, expand across the United States.
Well,
even
that
though
just means that they don't have common sense.
that's one good way to take it. So they thought that, this was a part. They actually thought that they were super special and that like God had blessed them and they were meant to do this. That's what they truly believed.
Wow.
I know, right? So then the term was used to justify genocide against indigenous Americans. Does anyone know what genocide is? It's kind of a heavy term, but
Yes.
yes. Does anyone know besides Edgar?
Oh.
No.
No? Let's see. I'm gonna scroll through. Safwan, do you know what genocide is? It seems like no. All right, let's let Edgar tell us.
Then what is the word?
Genocide. Are you gonna search it up? I feel like she's gonna search it up.
All right, Edgar, tell us what is genocide?
Genocide is like basically it's kind of a dark meaning, I think.
It is.
Okay, so it's just but it basically they thought so the it's basically killing.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Short, sweet, to the point. So genocide means not just killing, but killing everyone. So if, just as an example, if I had like a whole group of something, let's say I had a whole group of, I don't know, hamsters. Friends. I wanted to keep it not so dark, but sure, I had a whole group of friends and I killed them all. That's genocide.
She killed them all.
So that would be genocide. So the term was used, they used this term of manifest destiny to justify why they were killing people, brutalizing Native Americans, enslaving them, and so on. So we have to look at the key people involved in the idea of manifest destiny. And before we do, let me just still make sure that everyone's eyes are glued to the screen. You guys must be interested in this because I don't see any cameras off or anything. Okay, so.
We love history.
Oh, yay. I love history too. Okay, let's keep ourselves muted. Thank you. So, Andrew Jackson, he was president from 1829 to 1837. And he's the one who really began westward expansion as an idea. Like, it was happening, but he was really like, yeah, we're about to make a move for westward expansion, and that was a big part of his presidency. And so to him, he called it extending the area of freedom, which is interesting because they were in turn taking freedom away from other people while extending their own freedom. So in 1830, the Indian Removal Act was signed into law by Andrew Jackson. It authorized the president to grant unsettled lands west of the Mississippi in exchange for Native American lands within existing state borders. Andrew Jackson removed Native Americans to give greedy European settlers more land. So essentially, he signed this act, and that allowed people to take land kind of as they pleased. And there was no respect for the natives who already lived on the land or any ownership that they had to the land. And so even if there were people living there, the Europeans thought, oh, well, this is just land for the taking, even though there's a whole civilization of people here, but this is just for us. So we're just going to go ahead and take it.
Is that guy right there European?
Yes, no, he's American. I mean, they're closely related. European American. At this time, it was kind of
Potato, same thing.
there. You go, Edgar with the jacket. I love it. So, any questions? Let me go back. Any questions on this?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is he in the $50 bill? He looks like that.
Is that who's on the $50 bill?
I think it's $20 bill.
Oh,
Yeah, $1 bill.
I don't experience a lot of $50 bills.
I have a question.
Any more questions?
Me, I have some.
Okay. Yes.
Since he's on a dollar bill, why did they put people on the dollar bill?
They put people on the dollar bill who are historically important.
Historically important.
Right. Depending on
Wait.
whose history you're looking at.
Wait, so how did they make it like long ago when Andrew Jackson was president, or like in the 19 somethings?
No, whenever, I'm not even sure when modern money came into circulation, but whenever modern money was created, they decided who would be on the $1 bill, the $5 bill, et cetera, et cetera. And they picked people who they thought were important, like George Washington. He's on the $1 bill because he was the first president. $5 bill is Abraham Lincoln because he freed the slaves and some other things. And so they pick historically important people to put on the bills.
Oh.
I see Safwan's hand. Yes, you have a question?
Not really, but I know that Andrew Jackson moved westward because I think it was to somewhere west, like where it says westward expansion. I had a book that said something about that, and then I think he did it. That Andrew Jackson moved more west.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that was his whole thing. Safwan's right. Westward expansion. He just wanted to make sure. So we were mostly, after the Louisiana Purchase, we had this big piece of land in the middle of the United States, and we had the East Coast, but the West Coast was still uncharted territory. And he wanted to make sure that we owned everything. We, meaning Europeans, not me. So in 1838 and 1839, this is when we come to the Trail of Tears, which is a term used for the relocated, this was forced removal of Native people from their own land. So the relocated people suffered from exposure, disease, and starvation while en route to their new designated reserve, and many died before reaching their destinations or shortly after from disease. The Cherokee tribe faced hunger, disease, and exhaustion on the forced march. Over 4,000 out of the 15,000 of the Cherokees died during that march. And so this was all part of this Indian Removal Act, and they were relocating, forcing Native people out of their own land. Okay, I see some other hands. Ashada, your hand has been raised this whole time. Do you actually have a question?
Because I had a question earlier, but you didn't call on me, and I forgot to put it down.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, if you think of it, just, raise it again. Stop one.
I think I still have it.
What I noticed is that many were suffering, like when they faced hunger. It looks like that they suffered a lot more than when in this time. How many people are suffering? Because remember how pandemics going on? Mm-hmm. This is exactly like it, but except with many more diseases, and that they have to walk somewhere else, and they have to walk all the way.
Absolutely, they had to walk, and we don't know what the temperature was. This was from 1838 to 1839, so that is implied that we went through all the seasons. They have to walk through the snow, the rain, the heat, everything, and we also have to be just knowledgeable about the the diseases that they had they got them from Europeans. So
I
they
have
weren't,
another question.
yes. What
Did
is
they
it?
even walk through Arizona?
You said, did they walk through Arizona?
Yeah.
I would have to check because I don't want to give you any wrong information. So I'll be sure to check and see
Because
exactly where it was.
because if they went into Arizona, it would be so hot that they would feel like something like 102 degrees or something, which could mean that they actually suffered so hard.
You know what? I like that question, and I'm glad you asked it. So, Miss Ruza, can you look up just for me very quickly where, like, the map of the Trail of Tears?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm interested. Okay, thank you, Safwan, for those questions. I see Nasaya. I see your hand. Yes, ma'am. You have a question?
My question is about, well, not actually a question. It's basically about how I see in the picture.
Okay, that's fine. Observation is fine, too.
What I see in the picture is actually thinking that it looks like the horses looks like it's tired too,
Mhm.
because the way the horse's head is down, and also I think these people are tired. Also, looks like they are also suffering in a way is bad because they're walking and miles and miles. So, and they also is set in one of the bullet points that they face hunger,
Yes.
and then it also says like a lot of the Cherokees died from hunger and disease, and they how they suffered because they couldn't have no food or nothing.
Thank you. I love how you guys use every single tool you have to make your observations. Like Nasaya pointed out how in the picture, the horse's head looks like it's hanging down, not just the people, but just using every single tool you guys have to make observations. And that's really a skill that'll help you in every single subject. Jessica?
Can I just interject real quick? I found out which states they went through.
Thank you.
So it was Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. So no Arizona.
But if anyone has knowledge of geography, that's a lot of states, and they're not all close together. So that's a long. Actually, a long walk is an understatement. It's inhumane and just.
It could be like something like more than like 270 miles or something.
Yeah, we will have to. How many miles to walk there? Okay, so these hands that are up, are they? If you really don't have a question, can you lower your hand now? Okay, I see Aishata. Yes, ma'am. Question? You got 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Jessica, question? Oh, she lowered her hand. All right, so moving on.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. My question is, that PowerPoint, wait, for that PowerPoint, it says that they got diseases, right? And they were suffering, but was it because if the places were hot and they're wearing all those clothing, would that happen because of the hotness?
So here's the thing. They got forcibly removed from their homes, so they have to take all of their stuff. So who's unmuted? Can you please mute yourself?
Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you. So they had to take all of their stuff with them. That's why they have like these carriages and like wagons and stuff, because that's their stuff. And then there's people in there too. So these clothes, and like they're going through different weather all over like along this walk. So it could be hot, it could be cold. Like, you know, like when you're walking through certain climates, sometimes it's hot during the day and it's cold at night. So there's really no way to tell like what exactly they were going through. There's a lot of history though on this, and you can always go online and read up about it, and there's so much, it'll tell you so much.
So because of them having to leave their home because they were boys, did they like join like a war to get their homes back?
No, so they were moved to reservations, Native American reservations, which still exist today, and this is where they started. So the next person, so after Andrew Jackson was done being president, because you know you can only be president but for so long. So after he was done, the next president who was huge in this concept of manifest destiny and this concept of westward expansion was James A. Polk. He served as president of the USA from 1845 to 1849. And he was the one who really built the false idea of manifest destiny. Andrew Jackson, he had like some hints of it, but this is James A. Polk is the one who really built this ideal. So by the end of his 4-year term, the US had expanded from coast to coast. That means from what we now know as New York to what we now know as California. We had all of that land. And during this expansion, millions of Native Americans were killed, displaced, brutalized, enslaved, and stripped of their culture and traditions. There's a lot of, you guys just observed, you know, from the Trail of Tears. And there were so many different things that occurred during this time. Like simple things, simple as making Native children cut their hair, because that's a big part of their culture. And so it was a lot of different things happening. Yes, thank you for muting yourself. Any questions? Anybody? Question. No, I don't see any hands. If you have a hand, please raise it. All right. So manifest destiny was used as a justification for all this. So just to sum it up again, manifest destiny is this idea that European white people had, that they were so special that they deserved to take anything that they wanted. That they thought that they were meant, like destined, like it was their destiny for them to expand across the United States, no matter what it took to do so. I see some people in the chat. Somebody asked me about a $2 bill. I've literally seen a $2 bill like one time. I couldn't tell you who's on there. Jessica said that's harsh and mean. Yes, harsh and mean is an understatement. And someone else said something about a serial killer. I think we're getting off topic. Okay, so.
Also, I just want to add one more thing. I'm sorry, Ms. Cummings.
No, please add anything.
So just relating the terrible treatment of Native Americans to today's world, when we're looking at coronavirus or COVID-19, Native Americans are being disproportionately killed because of that virus because they're not receiving the medical help, right? So we know, like, have you guys ever heard of Doctors Without Borders? Right, so we know that Doctors Without Borders respond to the most severe of scenes, right? So whether that's war scenes or things like that, they respond to really severe situations where Doctors Without Borders are needed. And so a lot of those Doctors Without Borders are actually responding to Native American reservations because the coronavirus epidemic is so bad in those reservations. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how severe it is there. And so we know that Americans, Europeans stole land from the Native Americans and forced them to relocate, displacing a lot of them. And so they were promised certain rights by the government, right? Certain medical rights, certain, rights, certain services that they were promised. But obviously we see now, especially, that those rights aren't necessarily being adhered to. And so essentially the government has made a whole bunch of false promises and is not helping those Native Americans through the epidemic. And so that's why a lot of them are dying today. So that's something to keep in mind, how this still affects them.
Thank you, Ms. Shen, for adding that. That is very important. I'm glad Ms. Shen said that. Let us be clear that when they were getting displaced from their homes and moved to reservations, these were not happy places. It's not like they were moving them to a beach resort where everything's all inclusive and they're having fun. They're moving them to a space, usually so think about it. America wanted land and they want land with resources. So they're gonna move people to a land that has less resources. So they're moving them to places that are not necessarily ideal to live in. And reservations today are still have some of like the highest rates of so many that you know what, we can't even get into all that right now, but just know that it's not a happy place, that they weren't moving them to put them somewhere better or to take care of them. And like Ms. Shen said, they were promised certain things and those things never happened. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions at all?
Was president?
Oh, wait, you have to raise your hand. I see Sarah raising her hand. Yes, Sarah?
But don't the Native Americans know medicines like to fight their disease they have?
So they do know medicines to fight the diseases that they are accustomed to. But when there are people coming from another continent, another part of the world, who have a different type of civilization, they have different types of diseases. And so when the Europeans came over, they brought diseases that the Native Americans were never exposed to. And so they don't have the medicine to fight off those types of diseases. And usually the disease would sweep through the population pretty quickly. So even if there was someone trying to find a medicine, it was pretty fast. Safwan, I see your hand. Yes.
Can you tell me the percentage that about Native Americans that already died? Because it might be big.
So the percentage of Native Americans that died during what time period?
This time period?
I'm going to make it a point to get that information to you tomorrow.
Don't look it up right now. That's a really good question. I not the percentage, but it is quite high.
It is. So
Like something like 80?
Okay. Is he talking about the amount of people who died of corona?
no, he's talking
So
about
sorry, Ms. Cummings, I just Googled it. I just Googled the percent of Native Americans killed by Trail of Tears. And it didn't give me a certain percentage, but it did say 4,000 Cherokee people died.
Thank you, Ms. Ruza. And so
You're
for
welcome.
tomorrow, we'll get some numbers for you guys. So we have some more specific information. So this is all going to be important when we actually do read our text tomorrow. These are just important things to keep in mind. And when we're looking at the author's point of view tomorrow, we really want to remember all this information that we learned today. This is going to be important when we talk about it. I'm going to change the prompt question just because personally I don't like it. So we're not going to worry about that, and I'm going to change it. And so tomorrow's going to be a little different, but we actually are going to read our text tomorrow. But if you guys do have any questions that arise just in your thinking or anything you want to know, like Safwan asked about the numbers, anything you want to know, bring it to tomorrow and we will make sure to answer it before we get into the text.
What's the homework?
Sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say, Ms. Cummings, I don't know what you're planning on doing. I'm assuming that because you don't have to do the prompt for homework, because, are you talking about homework in general, Aishada? Or homework for this?
I'm going to put in the chat the numbers that we're supposed to do for math.
1 through 5, 9 through 10,
Um,
11, 12, 13, 14.
well, thank you. But some people apparently don't have access to Jupyter. Just Jupyter right here. So you're doing numbers 1 through 5, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, not just 1 and 5.
How many questions?
9 through 11, 13, and 14. I
Can
don't
you
know
send
how many
it to
questions
the
it is. So that's your math homework. You don't have any close reading homework.
I have a question.
Yeah.
For break, don't we stay here to have fun? So why don't we do that for the end of the day?
Do you want to stay to have fun?
Yes.
Is it fun? Well, actually, we have meetings, and that's why we can't stay.
Wait, so can they join my meeting?
Well, that's
Yes.
up to you, Miss.
They join my meeting?
So your homework is in the chat. You can
Can they
leave.
join my meeting? Can they join my meeting?
Have a good dinner.
Can they join my meeting?
I'm not gonna do it.
Please.
I have meetings to go to. I can't come to the meeting.
But can the other scholars join my meeting? Can you make Ashata host and then she puts the meeting?
No, we can't.
So we
just leave.
actually have to completely leave this, but Aishada, if you want to make like your own Zoom, you can, but I need to leave this meeting in order to download the recording of close reading that I did so I can upload it for other scholars who missed class.